15. Beautiful black R&B female singers who died young, tragically. They had beauty, talent, and voices that could shake the heavens, yet the world let them die young, forgotten and in pain. These were not just singers. They were pioneers, chart toppers, and barrier breakers. Some collapsed on stage, some were erased by the industry, some begged for help and were ignored. From Aaliyah to Minnie Riperton, from Florence Ballard to Tammy Terrell. Why did so many black R&B queens never live long enough to enjoy the legacy they created? In this video, we uncover the 15 beautiful black female singers who died tragically young and the dark truths no one ever told. Before we begin, hit like, subscribe, and tell us which queen do you still miss the most. Syreeta Wright. She was stunning, brilliant, and once deeply loved by Motown, but Syreeta Wright's story is not just one of lost potential. It is a warning about what happens when a beautiful black woman in the music industry dares to tell the truth. Known for her hypnotic eyes and poetic songwriting, Syreeta co-wrote major hits with Stevie Wonder, married him in 1970, and helped shape the sound of Motown from behind the scenes. By her mid-20s, she had the talent, the look, and the connections to become a global star. Yet after 1981, she vanished from the spotlight without explanation. No album, no tour, not even a proper public goodbye. What silenced her was not illness, it was a song. In secret, Syreeta recorded a deeply personal solo album called The Garden After War, a project unlike anything Motown had ever released. Instead of love songs, it was a raw confession of what black women endured in the industry: betrayal, spiritual conflict, and contracts with hidden sexual obligations. One track, Confession in the Green Room, exposed the reality of being pressured into private meetings for career favors. When she delivered the album to Motown, everything changed. Within 3 days, every performance was canceled. One internal email reportedly said, "Do not let Wonder's ex-wife become a symbol against us." She moved into a small apartment in Los Angeles that few people knew about. A friend who visited recalled she painted a mural on her wall, naked women singing in a graveyard. She stopped going to studios, recording only on cassette tapes stored in a tin box labeled, "Do not listen unless you love her." Neighbors remembered hearing her scream the night she was hospitalized. She clutched a crumpled song titled Heaven as a Woman, the official cause of death, breast cancer, at age 34. But there was no public funeral, no memorial, no master tapes. Her album disappeared. Her body was cremated early due to a paperwork error. An artist who wrote Motown's greatest love songs died alone, silenced not by disease but by truth too powerful for the industry to allow. Syreeta Wright didn't fade away. She was erased. Tammy Terrell. She was beautiful, radiant, and had one of the purest voices of Motown, but behind the sweetness of her duets with Marvin Gaye was one of the darkest tragedies in music history. Tammy Terrell, born in 1945, became a star at just 20 years old with hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, You're All I Need to Get By, and Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing. Her chemistry with Marvin was magical, but the world didn't know she was suffering in silence. On October 14, 1967, during a performance at Hampton-Sydney College, Tammy collapsed in Marvin's arms on stage. Fans thought it was exhaustion. In reality, it was the beginning of the end. Doctors later discovered a malignant brain tumor, but many believed the damage started earlier. Tammy had been in a violent relationship with singer David Ruffin of The Temptations. Friends and family confirmed he beat her severely. A CT scan revealed an old skull fracture never recorded in any medical file. She told a nurse shortly before surgery, "I'm not sick. I've been beaten to a pulp." Even after her first collapse, Motown still sent her on tour. One witness said she fainted in the studio, and they told her to get up and re-record the track. Marvin Gaye begged Motown to let her rest, but he was threatened with contract suspension if he spoke out. Between 1967 and 1970, Tammy endured 8 brain surgeries. The final operation was performed by a different surgeon not involved in her case. A neurologist later admitted there were signs of over-intervention, as if someone was trying to fix the tumor and hide something else. On March 16, 1970, at just 24 years old, Tammy died in a hospital room in Philadelphia. She was alone, no family, no Marvin, no cameras. A night nurse found her lying on her side, eyes open, hand pointing to the wall where someone had written in chalk, "Don't sing for me." After her death, Motown's archived Tammy recordings mysteriously disappeared. A staff archivist quit the same week and took her files. The funeral was private. Marvin Gaye attended but couldn't perform, he just cried. He later said, "If Tammy had lived, I wouldn't have been a singer. I would have been her protector." Barbara Randolph. She was stunning, poised, and destined for greatness, yet her name was nearly erased from Motown history. Barbara Randolph was born in 1942 and possessed the perfect mix of beauty, vocal power, and screen presence. Motown executives once believed she could replace Diana Ross if Ross ever left the Supremes. She had already appeared in Hollywood films like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner 1967 and had the kind of stage charisma that silenced crowds. With just 2 singles released, she was considered one of Motown's future stars. Then suddenly, she disappeared from music completely. No scandal, no official announcement, just silence. Those close to her say it wasn't by choice. Barbara once confessed in a rehearsal room, "They took everything from me. I signed my death with a contract." She never revealed exactly who they were, but the timeline spoke for itself. Not long after Motown stopped inviting her to events. Hollywood studios withdrew offers. Producers avoided working with her. It was as if her name became untouchable. Some believe she refused to comply with personal or image demands placed on her. Others say she knew too much about internal power politics at Motown. Either way, she was blacklisted quietly, not publicly. She retreated to a small apartment in South Los Angeles, cutting ties with the industry. Over time, even close friends could not reach her. One journalist tried to write a feature about her lost talent, but Motown reportedly responded, "She has nothing worth writing about. Let it go." Her final years were lived in complete isolation. No tours, no press, no spotlight. According to a neighbor, "I didn't see her lights on for 3 days. When police entered, they found Barbara lying on the sofa with an unfinished book in her hand and nothing but water in the refrigerator. There was no confirmed cause of death. Some say heart complications, but there were no hospital records. No family members came forward to claim her body. She was buried in an unmarked grave paid for by the county. Only years later did a non-profit fund a headstone that finally read Barbara Randolph. She sang to the world. Betty Everett. She had the face of a movie star, the voice of pure soul, and one of the most unforgettable hits of the 1960s. Betty Everett, born in 1939 in Mississippi, rose to fame with the smash hit, the Shoop Shoop song, "It's in His Kiss." In 1964, a song that became a timeless anthem and reached Billboard Top 10. Her voice was fresh yet powerful, mixing innocence with wisdom. Audiences adored her. She toured the country, appeared on TV, and was expected to become one of the defining female voices of R&B. But behind the spotlight, Betty's life was falling apart in silence. After her initial success, the industry quickly turned cold. Changes in music trends led Atlantic Records to drop her, claiming she was no longer marketable. She went through a brief and painful marriage that ended in divorce. She reportedly had a secret relationship with a famous male singer who promised to support her career only to abandon her during a psychological breakdown. A former tour assistant revealed she would smile on stage, then take sleeping pills backstage just to calm her mind. Betty once said, "People love me when I sing, but no one loves me when I'm silent." By the early 1970s, her mental health declined. Her career offers disappeared. She battled anxiety, depression, and financial hardship. On her final day in 1975, at only 35 years old, she called a close friend and said something chilling. "I've chosen my last song. It doesn't need an audience." The next morning, she was found in her bedroom with the radio still playing, It's in his kiss. There was no suicide note, no hospital record, and no clear cause of death. Her family refused an autopsy. The press gave her only a few short lines. The record label issued a generic statement, but no one organized a funeral. Her memorial was arranged not by the industry she helped build, but by a small group of fans who still kept her vinyl records from 1964. Betty Everett didn't die because she lacked talent. She died because the world loved her voice but never protected the woman behind it. Fontella Bass. She was stunning, fearless, and her voice could split the sky in half. Fontella Bass, born in 1940 in St. Louis, became one of the most powerful R&B vocalists of the 1960s. In 1965, she released the iconic hit "Rescue Me," which reached #1 on the Billboard R&B chart and #4 on the Hot 100, selling over 1 million copies. That song made her the face of female soul music and should have made her a millionaire. Instead, it became the beginning of her downfall. She later revealed that she received no royalties from the endless use of "Rescue Me" in movies, TV shows, and commercials. When she demanded her rights, the industry retaliated. Fontella sued Chess Records for copyright fraud, an act considered career suicide for black women in the 1960s. The label canceled her contract, blocked her radio play, and sabotaged her bookings. Her second album was shelved. Producers refused to work with her. She wasn't publicly canceled, they simply erased her name from the conversation. A music journalist later said, "They didn't have to blacklist her. They just had to stop saying her name." By her early 30s, Fontella's mainstream career was over. She returned to St. Louis, performing in churches and teaching music to poor children. Behind the scenes, she faced 3 severe battles with high blood pressure, 2 hospitalizations, and constant financial stress. She often refused treatment because she couldn't afford health insurance. One night at 3 a.m., she called a close friend and said, "If I die, tell the world I tried to sing for them." In 1972, at just 32 years old, Fontella underwent a risky heart surgery. The operation was delayed due to hospital issues. By the time she was taken into surgery, her blood pressure had crashed. She never woke up. The official cause, cardiac complications. But her best friend, gospel singer Bernice Jenkins, said it best. Fontella didn't die of a heart attack. She died because the industry stopped needing her voice. Her funeral was small. No record executives came. No big stars paid tribute. Just former students, church members, and the sound of "Rescue Me" playing through cheap speakers beside her casket. Renee Geyer. She wasn't black, but the black community claimed her as one of their own because she sang with a soul that broke every boundary. Renee Geyer, born in 1953 in Australia, was a white woman with one of the most powerful R&B voices of her generation. By her early 20s, she had already released multiple albums and scored hits like "It's a Man's World," earning respect from legends like Stevie Wonder, Chaka Khan, and Ray Charles. When she moved to the United States in the early 1980s, critics called her the white woman with the black heart. But the industry didn't know what to do with her. She didn't fit the image they could easily sell. American labels rejected her repeatedly. White audiences said she sounded too black. Black audiences loved her, but the industry didn't want to promote a white soul singer in a black genre. She was trapped in a racial no man's land. A producer once admitted she was too soulful for pop and too white for R&B radio. Despite critical acclaim, Renee struggled financially and emotionally. She lost her record deal and at one point lived in her car just to stay close to recording studios. To cope with constant rejection, she turned to drugs and alcohol. A former assistant recalled finding her asleep on studio floors, exhausted from performing in tiny clubs just to survive. On her last recording night in the US, she attempted a cover of "I'd Rather Go Blind." Halfway through the chorus, her voice cracked. She began to cry and said, "This is the song I want to sing when no one wants me." In 1981, at just 34 years old, Renee was found lifeless in a small Hollywood rehearsal room beside an electronic organ. The autopsy reported acute reaction to an unknown substance. Her final track was unfinished. American media barely mentioned her death. Record executives refused to comment. But in soul clubs across Chicago, Detroit, and New Orleans, DJs still played her records in tribute. Linda Jones. She had one of the most haunting voices in soul history, a voice that could lift you to heaven or break your heart in a single note. Linda Jones, born in 1944 in Newark, New Jersey, was a prodigy from the church who signed her first record deal at just 16 years old. In 1967, she released the smash hit Hypnotized, which reached number 4 on the Billboard R&B chart and made her one of the most promising young stars of her era. Audiences were stunned by her emotional delivery and vocal range. She was often compared to Aretha Franklin and was expected to become a global legend. But behind the applause, Linda was fighting a deadly battle, one the industry refused to acknowledge. Linda had type 1 diabetes, a serious and unpredictable illness. Instead of protecting her, record executives forced her to keep touring, performing multiple shows a day and recording non-stop. A band member recalled, "She passed out backstage once and they gave her 10 minutes to recover before pushing her back on stage. Managers were afraid that if audiences knew she was sick, it would hurt profits. So they hid her condition and pushed her beyond her limits." On March 14, 1972, Linda was performing at a church revival in Harlem. Before singing, she told the crowd, "I'm tired, but these people need me." After the show, she lay down on a backstage couch to rest. She never woke up. Her family rushed her to the hospital, but she had slipped into a diabetic coma. She was only 27 years old. The official cause, diabetic complications. But her mother later said she didn't die from illness. She died because they worked her to death. There was no major funeral, no labeled tribute, no justice. The same industry that profited from her voice abandoned her when she needed help. Yet every March, true soul fans still play Hypnotized in her honor. Florence Ballard. She was beautiful, fearless, and the true powerhouse behind the Supremes, yet she died in poverty, erased by the very group she helped create. Florence Ballard, born in 1943 in Detroit, co-founded the Supremes with Mary Wilson and Diana Ross. She was the original lead singer, the soul of the group, and the member with the strongest vocals. Between 1964 to 1967, the Supremes had 10 #1 Billboard hits, becoming Motown's biggest act. But behind the glamour, a brutal power struggle was unfolding. Florence had pride, a big voice, and a bigger backbone, and Motown didn't want a woman they couldn't control. She hated the revealing outfits, questioned why Diana was favored, and openly challenged Motown founder Berry Gordy. One employee recalled Flo was called into a private meeting for speaking up, and she never returned the same. She was silently pushed out of the group in 1967, replaced without warning, then forced to sign a contract that forbade her from using the Supremes' name in promotion. She received a one-time payout of only $139,804, far less than what the group was earning monthly. Her solo career was sabotaged. Producers were warned not to work with her. From superstar to welfare checks, Florence lost her home, sold her belongings, and struggled to raise her 3 daughters. Years of depression and alcoholism followed. In 1975, she attempted a comeback on The Mike Douglas Show and received a standing ovation. For a moment, it looked like she would reclaim her crown. But just 3 years later, on February 22, 1976, Florence collapsed in her apartment from a heart attack. She was only 32. Her mother said Flo didn't die from a bad heart. She died because they took away the stage she loved. No major Motown figure attended her funeral. Diana Ross sent flowers, but not herself. Phyllis Hyman. She was breathtaking, elegant, and possessed one of the most emotionally powerful voices in R&B history. But behind the glamour, Phyllis Hyman was slowly crushed by the very industry that praised her. Born in 1949 in Philadelphia, Phyllis stood 6 feet tall, modeled, acted on Broadway, and delivered soul ballads with a smoky mezzo-soprano that could stop time. She earned multiple Billboard R&B Top 10 hits, starred in the Broadway musical Sophisticated Ladies, and received a Tony Award nomination. To the public, she was a diva. In reality, she was a woman begging to be heard in a business that valued image over truth. Phyllis sang about loneliness, abandonment, and emotional pain, not bubblegum romance. Labels loved her voice but hated her honesty. They demanded she lose weight, wear lighter makeup, smile more, and sing happier songs. She refused to be fake. As a result, producers stalled her albums, canceled studio sessions, and replaced her with younger, more marketable artists. She once said in an interview, "I am not a doll. I am a wound that sings." Her depression deepened as executives ignored the music she believed in. She battled bipolar disorder, alcoholism, and industry pressure for years. She was hospitalized for mental health, yet when she returned, record labels only cared about her looks, not her healing. In her diary, she wrote, "This business wants my voice, not my soul." On June 30th, 1995, just hours before a performance at the Apollo Theater in New York, Phyllis left a note in her hotel suite. "I'm tired. I've tried. Forgive me." She overdosed on barbiturates and was found lying peacefully as jazz music played in the background. She was 45 years old. The media said suicide. But her friends said something deeper. She didn't die because she was weak. She died because she felt everything, and the world didn't feel her back. After her death, her music surged in popularity. Songs like "Living All Alone" and "When You Get Right Down to It" became anthems of emotional truth. Fans finally understood Phyllis Hyman wasn't just a singer. She was the voice of every strong black woman who breaks in private, because the world only loves her when she performs. Dee Dee Warwick. She was born into music royalty but died wondering if anyone would ever say her name. Dee Dee Warwick, born in 1945, was the younger sister of Dionne Warwick and cousin of Whitney Houston. With that bloodline and a voice full of grit, range, and gospel fire, she was destined to be a superstar. And for a moment, she was. In the late 1960s, Dee Dee earned 2 Grammy nominations for "Foolish Fool" and "She Didn't Know She Kept On Talking." Aretha Franklin once said Dee Dee could outsing almost anybody. But unlike the other Warwick women, the world didn't protect her. It punished her. Dee Dee faced something her family didn't. She didn't fit the image the industry wanted. She wasn't polished, quiet, or submissive. She was bold, openly emotional, and rumored to be bisexual at a time when that could end careers. A former Mercury Records manager revealed she was in a relationship with a female singer and was told to end it or lose her contract. After that, everything changed. Producers stopped calling. Labels shelved her albums mid-production. She went from rising star to problem overnight without explanation. Unable to cope with heartbreak and rejection, Dee Dee turned to alcohol and tranquilizers. Her live performances became unpredictable. She struggled financially and emotionally as the spotlight shifted permanently to her sister and cousin. When she tried to make a comeback, the industry ignored her. On October 18, 2008, corrected year, she died at 63. But her deepest wounds came decades earlier, when her career was destroyed in her mid-30s. The official cause, heart failure. But those close to her say she died of something larger, being invisible. The night before she passed, she watched a TV tribute to Dionne and Whitney. Her name was never mentioned. She cried for hours. Minnie Riperton. She was ethereal, breathtaking, and possessed one of the rarest voices in music history, able to sing in the whistle register with angelic clarity long before Mariah Carey. Minnie Riperton, born in 1947 in Chicago, trained as a classical soprano and started singing professionally as a teenager. In 1975, she released "Loving You," a song so pure and haunting it reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of the most recognizable ballads of the 20th century. At just 28 years old, Minnie was hailed as the future of soul. She was beautiful, joyful, mysterious, and unstoppable. Until the unthinkable happened. In 1976, Minnie was diagnosed with breast cancer, and doctors gave her only 6 months to live. Instead of hiding, she became the first celebrity to openly speak about having breast cancer on national television. She continued to record, tour, and even worked as a spokesperson for the American Cancer Society, becoming a symbol of Black female strength. But the industry was cruel. At press conferences, reporters asked about her hair, her marriage, even her skin, but rarely about her music. She once said, "I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of being forgotten." Her health declined, but her artistry didn't. The night before she died, she recorded a demo of a new song titled, "Here We Go." In the recording, she whispers the line, "If I disappear into a dream, keep this song." The next morning, July 12, 1979, Minnie passed away in her husband's arms, surrounded by white flowers and unfinished music. She was only 31 years old. Her daughter, Maya Rudolph, was just 7. Doctors said she died peacefully, but the nurse who was in the room said Minnie kept looking at the ceiling, repeating, "I'm not done. I'm not done." In just 31 years, she broke vocal barriers, defended Black women's health, and inspired generations. Yet the industry rarely gives her full credit. Aaliyah. She was beautiful, mysterious, and carried herself with a quiet power that made the world stop and stare. Aaliyah Dana Houghton, born in 1979, stepped into the spotlight as a teenager and immediately changed the sound of R&B. At just 15 years old, her debut album went double platinum. By 19, her second album, One in a Million, sold over 8 million copies worldwide, introducing a futuristic blend of soft vocals, heavy bass, and hypnotic rhythms with Timbaland and Missy Elliott. She wasn't loud or flashy. She was smooth, controlled, effortlessly cool. Fashion loved her. Hollywood loved her. Fans worshipped her. She was becoming the blueprint of modern R&B. But what made Aaliyah truly special was how versatile she was. She transitioned from music to film with ease, starring in Romeo Must Die 2000 and Queen of the Damned 2002. She filmed intense fight scenes without stunt doubles signed on for the Matrix sequels, and was preparing a third studio album that would have launched her into global superstardom. Everyone from Beyoncé to Rihanna called her an inspiration. She had the voice, the style, the vision, and the work ethic. At just 22, she had already achieved more than most do in a lifetime. And yet, she was just getting started. On August 25, 2001, after filming the music video for Rock the Boat in the Bahamas, tragedy struck. The crew was behind schedule and rushed to fly back. The Cessna 402B plane was overloaded by at least 700 pounds, but still forced to take off. An airport worker later said Aaliyah didn't want to board the plane because she felt unsafe. Some reports say she was given a sedative and carried on while asleep. 60 seconds after takeoff, the plane crashed and exploded. Everyone on board died instantly. The pilot was later found not licensed to fly the aircraft and had cocaine and alcohol in his system. No one faced charges. Aaliyah's death shattered the music world. She wasn't just another singer, she was the future. At her funeral in New York, thousands lined the streets as white horses pulled her glass casket covered in flowers. She left behind only 3 albums, but her influence never faded. Every new generation of R&B artists borrows her style, her softness, her elegance. She proved that power didn't have to be loud. Legacy didn't need age. Greatness didn't require time. Aaliyah was called one in a million. But the truth is, she was truly the only one. Lorraine Ellison. She didn't have a glamorous image or a chart-topping career, but when she opened her mouth to sing, the world stopped breathing. Lorraine Ellison, born in 1931 in Philadelphia, was a gospel-trained powerhouse with a voice so raw and emotional that critics described it as a storm made of blood and tears. In 1966, she recorded Stay With Me, a song so explosive that even Janis Joplin and Tom Jones called it one of the greatest vocal performances ever captured. For one shining moment, Lorraine had the music industry at her feet. She could have become the next great soul legend. But the industry wanted her to repeat the same formula crying ballads, pain on demand. Lorraine refused to be a machine. After Stay With Me, her label insisted she sing more dramatic heartbreak songs. She wanted artistic freedom. They wanted profit. So they cut her contract. She tried to launch a new project, but producers turned her down for being too intense, too real. Rather than fake her music, Lorraine walked away from commercial fame. She moved back to Philadelphia, living with her mother, writing songs in private and performing only in small black clubs where people appreciated her soul. She didn't chase trends, she didn't compromise. She chose authenticity over applause, but the price was invisibility. In her final years, Lorraine struggled financially and physically. She developed severe pneumonia but refused to go to the hospital because she didn't trust the medical system. A close friend said music didn't choose her to shine. It chose her to hurt. On her last day in 1976, at just 34 years old, she sat at her piano coughing but still writing. When they found her, the piano was still softly playing from the last note she struck. Beside her was an unfinished sheet of music titled, "I Was Here." There was no funeral funded by the industry, no tribute from the label, no major headlines. She died exactly the way the industry treated her, quietly. But here's the truth. Lorraine Ellison didn't need fame to be legendary. She didn't need charts to be eternal. Every time Stay With Me is played, people feel something they can't put into words. Judy Clay. She was courageous, groundbreaking, and one of the first black women to break the color barrier in American pop music. Judy Clay, born in 1938 in St. Paul's, North Carolina, was raised in the church and began performing gospel as a child with the Drinkard Singers, a group that included her cousin, Cissy Houston, and later became part of the extended Whitney Houston family. By the early 1960s, Judy had one of the most soulful, thunderous voices in R&B, a voice that could lift choirs or shatter prejudice. Yet her story is remembered less for the notes she sang than for the risks she took. In 1967, Judy made history as the first black female artist to record a duet with a white male singer, Billy Vera, on the song Storybook Children. It was a heartfelt love song that symbolized unity during a time when interracial relationships were still taboo in America. The song reached the Billboard Top 20, but radio stations in the South refused to play it. Some television networks banned their performances, claiming the pair's chemistry was too intimate. Their label, Atlantic Records, quickly distanced itself. Judy was called controversial, even dangerous, simply for standing next to a white man and singing about love. After that, her career stalled. Her follow-up single, Country Girl, City Man, met the same resistance. Promoters canceled tours. Publicists stopped returning her calls. Judy was effectively blacklisted for being brave. She continued performing in gospel circuits and worked as a backup singer for artists like Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett, but the fame she deserved never came. She struggled financially, raising her children alone and performing whenever she could. On July 19, 1979, Judy Clay suffered a massive brain hemorrhage in her Brooklyn apartment. She was only 41 years old. On her bedside table sat a box of unopened letters, offers to perform at tribute concerts for the very genre she helped build. Her sister later said, "When they needed her to make history, she was a tool. When she needed them to live, they disappeared." Judy Clay never sought controversy, only equality. She sang love in a world that wasn't ready to hear it. And though she died young, her voice still echoes every time two people sing together without fear. They were beautiful, gifted, and brave enough to change music, but the world rarely protects the women who build its soundtrack. From Zulma's Silenced Diary to Aaliyah's Final Flight from Minnie Riperton's Unfinished Song to Florence Ballard's Stolen Legacy, these black R&B queens didn't just die young, they were failed by the systems meant to celebrate them. Their voices shaped generations, yet many were erased, abused, or replaced the moment they stopped being profitable. On Legends of Black Excellence, we refuse to let their stories fade. But here's the question that should haunt us all. Do we truly honor our legends while they're alive, or only once it's too late?